This is Adam Gorney on Rival Signing Day show here with Dominic Raiola, Dylan Raiola's dad, five-star quarterback, Nebraska signee. How good is it to hear that?
It's a good feeling. It's a little more personal, obviously. We're waiting for this day, waiting for the day that Nebraska has come back. A lot of people don't understand. A lot of kids don't understand the type of program Nebraska is and has been, and it's what for him to come to this decision on his own. Gives us a sense of pride, um, and it kind of a sense of he got it. He got it at the end of the day, and we're proud of him.
Walk me through those final days when he decided to decommit from Georgia. And then it seems like from Matt Rule's telling that he kind of called Matt and kind of told him he wanted in. So what were those conversations like? How difficult did it get for him? How did it all play out?
Yeah, after the season, we didn't realize, Dylan was all in on the season. He was all in on Georgia every weekend, all in on the season. I will say, I'll give you like the end of the story before it started. If we didn't move here, I'm not sure if this would have happened. I'm not
Right.
sure if he would have came to this conclusion. And one thing in our house is when you're committed somewhere, you don't talk to other schools. You don't entertain other schools. We went to Nebraska in the middle of the year, went to the game against Michigan, and it was ugly. Obviously, he talks to his uncle. His uncle is his uncle first, and he's the O line coach at Nebraska second. So whenever um, it was a Saturday, I think 2 weeks before signing day, and my younger son, texted me and said, "Hey, Dad, I think Dylan really wants to go see Nebraska. Wants to take an official to Nebraska." I said, "Well, he's never said anything about it, and he's committed to Georgia, and we never got any sign of it being any different." And the in-home visit happened already, so we're at the 11th hour, and for my wife and I, we really sat him down and asked him the hard questions. Asked him why again, like what's this, this nudge that you feel, is it real, is it fake? We had to ask him the hard questions because in our hearts, this I mean, look, there's not a better place that I'd want him to open other recruits' eyes that it's okay to go back to Nebraska because Nebraska, what Georgia is now, Nebraska was in the late 90s. And but it had to be something that he had to come to this conclusion. And so fast forward, that Saturday went through, you know, and I told my younger son Dayton, I said, well, if this is something he wants to do, he needs to talk to us about it. And um and then I reached out to my brother. I said, hey, I think dude's having a change of heart. I think he's doesn't want to let us down. And I think at this point, this is the time to speak up. Especially in the recruiting process and in college football nowadays. I mean, this is the time to speak up before it's too late. I don't care how many times we moved, how many times he changed schools. So, long story short, he did reach out to Coach Rule. I think that was that was the next step, and he wanted to explore taking a visit. I think it built up into a wildfire pretty quick. But those 3 days, I mean, every day it was like, what do you feel today? What do you feel, the next day? It was Monday now, and then it was Tuesday, and then, the visit was happening. I said, you need to call Coach Smart, out of respect to his program. And people need to understand that it wasn't anything what they didn't do or did do. I said, this was just a kid that really wanted to bet on himself. And, eventually football players, athletes need to understand that if this is something you want to make a job, this is something you really see happening you're in your future, and less than a percent get to do it professionally, but
Yeah.
at some point you got to bet on yourself. And I think at the end of the whole process, I think that's what he learned. He was like, well, why not me? Why can't I do it? Why can't I join Coach Rule and this new regime? And I see that they're doing really good things up there in Lincoln, and I want to be a part of it, and I want to spearhead, changing this place and putting this place back on the map. And you have every resource there. I mean, there's no reason why this can't happen.
Was there any part of you as a parent, as a former college player, more than a decade in the league, that said, you put the chips at Georgia and they have everything from players and recruiting and all the receivers that you're going to throw to and all the offensive linemen? Or was this kind of a thing that you really wanted him to, like you said, spearhead his own opportunity there to get this thing jump started again?
Yeah, well, if he feels like he's the player that he is, if this is something he truly wanted to do and his heart really truly nudged him to do, um, sometimes players need programs more than programs need players. And this is a point where, he felt like he's a generational talent. He's a transformational leader, and that's what he's betting on.
Yeah.
And look, as a parent, I'm not going to be the one here sit here and say that's not who you are, right? And look, I bet on myself a lot,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of success doing it. And we understand, what his standards are and the amount of work he puts in, and how people are held accountable. And and not just it's not just about him changing the place. There is a whole contingent there at Nebraska, starting with Trev Alberts, then to Coach Rule, the staff, the nutritionists, the academics, the weight room. I mean, this is a staff that they could put themselves back in the national conversation. And like I said, I think college football is better when Nebraska is back in it. Same can be said for USC. The same can be said for the Miamis, the Florida States. And when this was happening, I will say bring up one guy's name. His name's Kirk Herbstreit. When he saw the smoke about Dylan entertaining Nebraska, he was like, called me. He said, "Dude, is this true? He got to do it. He got to do it." His affinity for Nebraska, for a guy like that to tell me and to get behind me. Like I knew he needed to do it, but I wasn't going to sit here and say you need to go change that place or be a part of the change at that place.
Yeah.
So when Kirk told me that, I was like, man, this is. I've had people reach out, other coaches reach out to me and say, look, the place is special. Coach Rule is a special leader. And so it just snowballed into something really beautiful at the end of the day. And we're really proud of the decision that he made.
When we talked to Matt Rule in December and he was coming off the high of this, he said that there has to be some managed expectations too. Like he's not going to come in and lead Nebraska to a national championship from day one. That will be the hope. But do you want the Nebraska fans to say, "Hey, we demand excellence here," or maybe if there's an incompletion that he's still just a kid learning the game?
There's got to be a balance of that, right?
Yeah.
Because every quarterback goes through it. But I did encourage him. I said, I encourage him to watch. Obviously watch your guy Mahomes and how he does it, but watch guys like C.J. Stroud, how he did it as a rookie in the National Football League. Watch guys who's had success in college. I mean, Brock Purdy, right? It's
Yeah.
perfect week to talk about a guy like that. I mean, he went into a place like Iowa State and played a lot, and look, no disrespect to Iowa State or any other programs, but we're talking about a school that they have 5 national titles, you know, Heisman Trophy winners, award winners everywhere, and it's just a matter of time before you know the group that does it. And if you look at Coach Rule's track record, he's done it at Temple, he did it at Temple, he did it at Baylor. He's been in worse circumstances. As he came off of that huge, it was a big deal when he took over the program at Baylor. So for him to do something like that at a program, like a Temple, like a Baylor, and then being around him in the current, right? I always tell people, what's done is done. Like the 5 national titles, all the award winners, all the Heisman trophies, that's all done. This is this is a time for the team that's there now to take, kind of take the reins and take the torch and really relight it and start their own journey.
Last thing, and probably the most important, your jersey's retired there, your name's in the building, but do you have your suite picked out? I mean, are you ready to go here?
There's a lot of people there. There's a lot of support there. There's a there's a lot of people pulling for this, that pulling for this to happen and made it happen. Um, I could visit a number of guys. Texting Larry the Cable Guy, so it'd be fun to get back there, but I can't imagine what I'm gonna be on game day. I'll be on pins and needles, my wife and I both. So,
Yeah,
but it is cool. It's gonna be cool to be in there, and just it's gonna be definitely a proud moment as a former Husker and as a former Huskers son that's gonna take the field there.
that's awesome. That is Dominic Raiola. Dom, thanks so much for joining us.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right.